Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Monday Nights on RCI TV. It is the season finale. It's round 4 of the Asia Masters, and we are here in the land of the rising sun. But rather than rise, it is setting this evening as we are here for the grand finale. Will it be Honda? Will it be Lexus? Will it be Nissan that comes out on top in the Pro and Silver classes? Good evening to everyone. My name is Ryan Gill. I was away for the past week at Laguna Seca, so you had Jesse Lee and Ryan Mawson in the commentary box with you, but I am back now with Ryan Mawson behind the cameras and John Dalton alongside me for the commentary for the final round of the season. John, we've both had a week away from the action, but well, whilst we were gone, they kept us entertained, didn't they?
Yeah, certainly so. Asian Masters is one of those championships that's been insanely close throughout the whole season. The Lexus is always very tight in the mid-pack with a couple of Hondas at the front. Saw a great showing from Joe McCauley and Giuseppe Doana in the last couple of rounds, so excited to see what Joe McCauley can do. Boite looking quite quick in practice as well. Obviously qualifying coming up in a couple of minutes, so it will be all to play for, but Honda's definitely looking very strong at Suzuka.
Definitely looking strong indeed. We'll have the championship standings up after qualifying, but it is Joe McCauley that leads the way in the Pro standings, but only by 1 point over Christopher Verstappen, so all to play for here tonight between Honda and Lexus for the championship title. And we even have a couple of Nissans in the top 10 as well, so they'll be looking to improve on their already good season. And well, in the silver class, it's not as close as it is in the pros. There is, I believe, 22 points between our two leaders, but that is more than enough to still keep it within contention. I believe the top 4 in the silver class are all within a chance of winning it here tonight, so it is still very, very close in both the pro and silver categories. But we're here at Suzuka, probably one of the most ideal places we could end a series like this. All Japanese cars in the Asia Masters, and of course one of the perennial circuits that you can find on the Asian continent as well. One of the jewels of the world, we could also call it as well, with the Japanese Grand Prix being hosted here. There's also the Intercontinental GT race, the Suzuka 10 hour, pretty sure it is, that hasn't been hosted for a couple of years actually due to the global pandemic, but is of course still a race that is very, very revered the world over as well, and a very fitting venue, isn't it, John, to see out the season?
Certainly so. Ties in very well with the theme of the championship. It's definitely been a good one. I've very much enjoyed it. Seeing a few different cars on the grid rather than the the meta picks that we always see in a season. Same people in the same cars. It's great to switch it up and see these guys kind of struggle to almost get their grips on their chosen car for this season.
Yeah, it definitely has been great to see everyone, trying out different things and getting to see some of those cars that we don't usually see on the grid all too often. And speaking of cars that we don't see on the grid all too often, we'll be seeing some new cars on the grid next season. Of course, everyone's probably heard by now about the new DLC coming out very soon for ACC, the Challengers Pack. And glad to say that the next Monday Championship will be making use of that DLC content, which I believe goes live on Wednesday afternoon. We'll have to keep an eye out on everything that's being released in that, but we should have some details about the next championship live after the race tonight. And well, from some of the planning behind the scenes, it's looking like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic one. We are moments away from the final qualifying session of the season here for Asia Masters. Only a short championship, but that means that all those points you've accumulated across the first 3 rounds, John, matter a lot more than usual.
Definitely, with the championship being so close as down to 1 point, we're going to have to see a very big showing from Verstappen in qualifying. Almost, nope, Andy Boardman's just jumped up the top, but Verstappen half a second off Joe McCauley's fastest time, with Suzuka being one of those notoriously tricky places to overtake. There's normally only one line through a lot of these corners, so it can make it quite tricky. Grid position is going to be key today, I feel.
Definitely is going to be key today, and the qualifying session for the final round of the season is underway, and the drivers making their way out onto the track. And the first car out there looks to be Klaus Naring here in the 21 Lexus, followed out just quickly by one of the Nissans as well, and another group of Lexus. So good to see the cars all getting out there nice and early to get this qualifying session underway. Only 10 minutes for them to come out here and set those laps. It's not very long at all. But the good thing is the temperature is nice out here. 23 degrees ambient, 28 degrees track, optimum conditions. Just a light breeze going towards the north by the looks of it. So some nice evening conditions here for the final qualifying session of the season.
Always good to see the clear conditions, especially with the optimum track. Really gives these drivers the best shot at qualifying that they can get. Expecting Joe McCauley to put on a very good show here, being nearly a 2-minute lap. I mean, the earlier you can get out, basically the earlier you get your out lap done, and probably the more laps you can squeeze into this 10-minute window. You know, if you make a mistake at 130R, notoriously easy to run wide, invalidate a lap there. Spoon curve again, jumping on the power too early, and spoon 2 can push you over those track limits. So certainly one to be watching, track limits today, as we watch Klaus Naring get a big armful of opposite lock in spoon 2. Definitely not going to do those tyres any good for his first lap. You need to bring them in quite gently and then start pushing on them in the next few laps or so.
Yeah, with how long the lap is around here, you don't get too much time in a very short qualifying session. You have to make the most of the time that you're given. About 4 flying laps is probably the most you can expect around here with a qualifying session that is this short. But we're going to jump on board here with the number 21 and have a little look about how they go around their first flying lap. This will be to put down their banker lap for the session, and this is a session that will matter a lot going into the finale. It will dictate how much or how easy it can be for some of the drivers to challenge for those positions looking for it towards the end of the season, especially for title contenders in Pro and Silver. And for Klaus Naring at the moment, the number 21, they sit 9th in the championship, and they have 8 points between themselves and Mikael Sundström just ahead. So a good performance here tonight. They can find themselves jumping up the order, maybe into the top 5 even, that Stefan Zero occupies at the moment. So plenty of places for everyone throughout the field to gain here today in the season finale. And what we've seen so far is that every single race has produced different drivers ending up near the front of the grid. I mean, down in Silver we've had 2 different winners, almost 3, but not quite so. And up towards the Pro class we've also had 2 different winners as well. So plenty of variety going out there, looking quite challenging for a couple of the drivers, even in a short series, just to come out and get a duplicate win on the board.
Certainly so, when the field is this closely kind of tied with big names such as Joe McCauley and Giuseppe D'Anna. You know, we've seen great battles throughout from Klaus Naring as well as Stefan Zero, who's always been near the top, you know, cementing himself in the top end of the championship. Peter Henneberg, again, another quick driver, had a great showing from him in the first few rounds. So yeah, it's all to play for. There are some super quick drivers in the field tonight, and yeah, exciting to see what kind of racing we get.
Klaus Naring then coming towards the end of their first flying lap, coming through the Casio Triangle chicane now, and towards the timing line they will go. It's looked like a pretty good lap. They've kept it within the limits. They did not drop it at Spoon, where John said earlier, so easy to do on a qualifying lap and in the race as well. Klaus Naring comes up towards the line, and they'll set a 2-minute .3 to start out the session. That is better than what Benjamin Heilmann can manage on their first attempt. Same for Stefan Zero, Nico Kumpu, and I believe Verstappen as well. But then Henry Fuerte comes out and drops us into the 59 straight away on their first flying lap. The Honda 86 is the first one to break that 2-minute barrier.
Honda's certainly looking very strong in practice, with the top 2 positions occupied by 2 very quick drivers. So my money, I think, today will be on a Honda taking pole, and potentially a Honda even taking a win.
Well, Henry Fuerte's got off to a good start then by putting it on provisional pole. We still await to see what some of the other drivers could come out and do. Joe McCauley, I believe, at the moment is on his first flying lap He came out a bit later than a few of the other drivers did, obviously wanting to find some clean air, didn't think he could get out of the pit lane first, and probably not a bad decision. He has found himself nice and alone on the track. Won't be getting any slipstream, but won't be getting distracted by any drivers that are ahead or behind him either. So he'll keep going as we look at Stefan Zera right now in the 721, sitting 5th place in the championship and 5th place in qualifying at the moment as it stands. And oh, on my end, I've just seen Joe McCauley go off into the barrier, I think. And he's returned to pit lane. Joe McCauley, on his first flying lap out, he's gone into the barrier, and now he's been towed back to the garage, so he's going to have to go out again. He might only get one flying lap in here.
So he's not leaving it a lot of time. 4 minutes just over on the clock. He's just leaving his pit stall now with at least 2 minutes for an outlap and 2 minutes for a flyer, as he dropped it at 130R on the curb, and the car just snapped back into the wall. Not a very happy Honda there. So fingers crossed he can avoid that one during the race, because that will be very costly indeed. But yeah, with Joe McCauley leaving the pit lane now, 2 minutes on the clock, he's probably going to get one flyer in. So it's going to have to be a very strong showing to beat Henry Fuerte off the pole position here.
Yeah, and Christopher Verstappen, who is just 1 point behind Joe McCauley in the championship, will be liking what he sees there, knowing that Joe McCauley will only get one qualifying lap in that will count. And the pressure is on Joe McCauley as well, has to make that lap count, can't afford to invalidate it, or they'll be starting right at the back of the grid. He's not the only driver, though, that hasn't got a lap on the board yet. Peter Henneberg in the 77 Lexus is still missing on the timing sheet, so is Stefan van Kampen and Hegstrom Vigeskjær in the 81 Nissan.
It's certainly not the track that you don't want to be setting a time at, and getting stuck at the back, especially in the dirty air through the S's, can really detriment the aero balance of the car. And again, you don't want to get stuck in any first turn incidents. Notoriously tricky Suzuka. Turn 1, it always ends up being too wide all the way around 1, 2, and normally into the S's of 3, 4, 5 and 6, before it eventually thins itself out going up towards Degner 1 and Degner 2, where notoriously there is only one line through Degner. It's very hard to get side by side, as we watch Jake Boswell navigating the hairpin towards the top of the field. Looking quite good on his Delta, although losing a slight bit of time coming out the hairpin down to spoon 1 and spoon 2. Notoriously big drag, always key to try and get a good exit out of the hairpin, as it can really impact your time. As skipping into 1, you always keep the steering angle the same going into 2. Normally hooks up the apex quite well before getting the hammer down, heading up towards 130R. Looking back towards his Delta, hasn't lost a lot. He is in the green, which could shovel him up a few positions. Heading into 130R, where we just saw Joe McCauley drop it, tipping it in, slight lift, maybe a dab of the brakes. We're getting a little bit of front wash, hard on the brakes now for the final chicane, jumping over one curb, tipping it the other way, jumping over the other curb as he starts to catch the back of another Lexus, I believe, of Jordan Daly. Could potentially give him a little bit of tow down the main straight as he crosses the line. Jake Boswell did not improve, I believe. Nope, here he goes up to P5. So a slight improvement there from Jake Boswell, one of our silver drivers that we've always seen do quite well here. And Andy Boorman with Robin Klaus also looking a little bit racy just outside the top 10. I'll be excited to see what they can do, see if they can push their way up the field.
Definitely so, and here is Christopher Verstappen, who second in the championship in the pro class at the moment. He's sitting 6th overall at this point, not where he wants to be. He wants to be further up than what he is right now, and he's got about a second between himself and Henry Fuerte's 159.4. Verstappen is up by 0.3 of a second though, and they will have enough time left of this session to do one more flying lap. And coming into the Casio Triangle, gaining some time on the entry, losing a bit on the exit though. They'll stay about 0.3 of a second up, maybe just a bit more on their lap time, so they are going to improve on this occasion. This could throw them up to 4th, and it will provisionally, and they'll have one more go at this as we look at Joe McCauley, who is on a flyer at the moment. He needs to get a good lap in right here, right now, because realistically, this is it. This is the only lap he's going to get into this session. He will not get to the line before the timer expires. So here we go, Joe McCauley. This is it. This is his bid for pole position. Can he do it? Can he do a one-lap wonder? It has to be a 1:59.445. Will Joe McCauley do it? Crumbs up to cross the line. And it's a 1:59.5, but it's not going to count.
Yeah, not the kind of lap Joe McCauley wanted there. Wanted a shot at pole, even a shot to get himself in the top 10. So starting from P27, he has got a lot of climbing to do as we look back towards Klaus Nyring here on a bit of an improvement on his delta. Through the chicane he comes, possibly looking to maybe even jump Verstappen on the grid here. Lost a lot of time through the chicane though, not much of improvement coming through for Klaus Nyring, taking that shorter line, hugging the pit wall all the way, trying to make his run to the line as short as possible, and no improvement here from Klaus Nyring.
So Klaus Nyring doesn't move up any further up the order. Christopher Verstappen, by the way, as he navigates around the parked Nissan, is up on his lap time by about 1.5 at the moment. And that would be enough to put them up to third position. It won't be enough to get them onto the front row of the grid unless they can find some extra time here in the Casio Triangle that they failed to find on that previous attempt. It looks like they might have found a bit of extra time this occasion. About 1/4 second up, but they're slow on the exit. They're going to try and hug the line as well. They'll be about 0.2 second up. It doesn't look like it'll put them on the front row, but it will move them to third right at the end of the qualifying session. So it's Henry Fuerte on pole for the season finale. They've got Stefan Zero alongside them, 0.5 second back from the provisional pole. And then Christopher Verstappen and Peter Henneberg, an all Lexus second row of the grid. But the big news coming out of qualifying is Joe McCauley starts at the back. And speaking of Joe McCauley, we'll have a little look at the championship standings and show you exactly what the situation is here tonight for the Fros. So there it is, Joe McCauley right at the top, 90 points on the season for him. And that puts him just 1 point ahead of Christopher Verstappen. Verstappen starting third tonight, Joe McCauley 27th. If Joe McCauley is going to win this championship, he's going to have to pull off a bit of a miracle here tonight. Giuseppe De Anna on 73 points. Not here tonight, unfortunately. So it looks like Henry Fuerte, all they have to do is pick up 1 point here today, and they should have that third place, assuming they can also beat the likes of Stefan Zero and Vigasque behind. Stefan Zero on 69 points. And very nice in the top 5 there. Hagstrom Vigasque with 60 points is tied for 6th with Peter Henneberg. Then we've got Mikael Sundström on 54, Klaus Nyring with 46 points, and then Nicholas Nordqvist rounding out the top 10 on 42. We have 3 Swedes in the top 10.
Certainly
Also,
a very strong showing from the Swedes, all in the Nissans as well. So maybe something proving there.
Nico Kumpu is 11th place in the standings, and then Rob Taplin in 12th place with 30 points. Benjamin Harlan, who joined for round 2 onwards, is in 13th place with 26. Jordan Daly has 25 points, and then Andres Sarko with 24. Very close between all of them. And just a couple points back is Victor Nordqvist with 21, and then Stephen Van Kampen, who has 17. Harley Smith, Jarkko Torvinen, and Carlos Guillaro all on no points, and they are no longer participating in series, and the same for Sabas Series there as well. On to the silver class, and there is battles up here tonight as well. Andy Boardman leads the way by 22 points to Matthew Kingston Lee. And then Mark Nosk is just a few points back as well, third in the championship for the silver class at the moment. Tom Watts on 70 points, and then Florian Atzwanger on 60 points to round out the top 5. Rudy Philmotter, Hladkey, Thibaut Roskam, Robin Klaus, and Phil Roberts round out the top 10. 2 Nissans in the top 10, and well, a big chunk of Lexus in the silver class, filling out 8 positions of the top 10. Going a bit further out is Wojciech Dvorak, who has 35 points to their name. Then it's Joe Dorber with 23, Benjamin Schumann with 18, and Jake Boswell is on 0 points. I don't believe that is correct. I will have to double check that, but I don't believe Jake Boswell should be on 0 points. Paolo Gadget and Carlos Calati are no longer in the championship, so they are on no points. And, well, a little bit of a stat that I just got told. I might have known this if I'd been there last week, John, and I'm not sure if you knew this as well. Mikael Sundstrom has finished 7th in every race so far. Do you think he can make it 4 in a row tonight?
I mean, you can't put more consistency on somebody than that. Qualifying P7 tonight as well. It's very possible he could continue the P7 run on the Asia Masters Monday Series.
Well, as we prepare for the season finale here tonight, we have Henry Fuerte on pole with Stefan Zero alongside. It's Christopher Verstappen and Peter Henneberg on the second row of the grid. Klaus Naring, and then it is Jake Boswell himself up there on the third row. Mikael Sundstrom, who, well, like we just said, has finished 7th in every race, starts 7th today, and Nico Kumpu is alongside him on the fourth row of the grid. It's going to be very, very interesting here tonight to see how everything plays out. I mean, for the Pro Championship, Verstappen's got to be feeling confident now. I mean, he's sitting third. Joe McCauley is right at the back of the grid, but anything can happen here, John. I mean, we've seen fantastic drives from, all sorts of drivers throughout different, skill levels before to come back and win championships or win races against adversity. And I mean, you'd be a bit mad to back against Joe McCauley, wouldn't you?
I'm not sure with the pace that Joe McCauley has. It could be a one to definitely watch. I mean, I'm not putting my money on Joe to win, but I'm certainly putting my money on to see him in the top 10 end of the field, maybe even the top 5. Honda looking super strong. Even in practice, he was top of the board with Henry Fuerte. So definitely one to be keeping your eye on, seeing how he carves through the field and deals with the slow drivers. But again, could be room for mistake in that, driving with drivers that he's not usually used to driving with, a little bit unpredictable, not used to their racing style. People could get very over defensive, seeing Joe McCauley actually having to fight them for a position rather than just kind of opening the door and saying, onwards you go, Mr. McCauley, on to your next lap.
Yeah, Joe McCauley has his work cut out for him this evening if he doesn't want to hand that championship over to Verstappen. But for the likes of Verstappen, it's not really plain sailing for him here either today. I mean, he's got Henry Fuerte 16 points behind him, and Henry Fuerte starts on pole today. So if Verstappen, maybe doesn't get a great start, drops down, a few places, maybe looking at like 7th or 8th place, and then Henry Fuerte goes on to win the race, keeping in mind he's already picked up some points from pole position today. You could be looking at Henry Fuerte jumping from 4th in the championship up to 1st by the end of it here today. It's far from decided for the likes of Christopher Verstappen. He doesn't just have to worry about Joe McCauley all the way at the back of the grid. He's also got to worry about that Honda 86 right at the front. Their main priority is going to be to get through turn 1 and 2 cleanly and then disappear into the distance and hope that Verstappen gets caught up in stuff behind.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's all to play for tonight at Suzuka, which is going to make it super, super interesting for us, especially with Joe McCauley lurking out the back of the field, seeing what he can do, carving his way through. Like you say, Verstappen can't get too kind of lax. He's still got Fuerte as a challenger tonight, so definitely one to watch out for. With Joe McCauley being at the back, could be quite easy for him to switch off and kind of forget, lose a little bit of focus, and yeah, like you say, could go backwards down the field off the grid. But I don't think he'll find himself in P7 because I think Sundstrom's going to take that tonight.
Is that your bet for the night? Is it that Sundstrom's going to finish 7th place?
Sundstrom for P7 again. He's got to keep the consistency. If he doesn't, I'm going to be very, very unhappy.
He's becoming the Nico Hülkenberg of this championship, isn't he? And maybe a bit apt considering that Formula One just happened on the weekend, and Nico Hülkenberg did make a bit of an emergency appearance for the first race of the season. And well, let's hope that the final race here can live up to some of the expectations that we've had for the season so far. It has been great. 3 amazing races that have seen battles all the way throughout the field. The Pro and Silver class has definitely delivered. I know that there's been people in the AM and Rookie category that have definitely enjoyed this series as well. Their split going on at the same time, and maybe a championship that we can revisit here at RCI in the future. Maybe in the future, if we ever get the rest of the Asian tracks from for GT World Challenge Asia, maybe we can bring this championship back as a full 6 race calendar with an all Asian calendar. It would be absolutely fantastic to see, but for now we will live with the cars that we have and the season finale ahead of us. So here we go then, 1 hour of racing ahead of us here tonight. 1 mandatory pit stop for every single driver, live stewarding as well to make sure that any incidents that go on throughout the race are looked at and drivers penalised accordingly. It is Henry Fuerte on pole for the season finale. Stefan Zero alongside them. The championship leader, Joe McCauley, in the Pro Class at the back of the grid. His challenger in 4th place at the moment, Christopher Verstappen. What will happen down towards turn 1, we can only wait and see as we prepare ourselves for 5 red lights to turn green, and the season finale will be upon us. Will it be a Honda? Will it be a Lexus? Will it be a Nissan that takes the final checkered flag of the season? Let's find out. 1 hour of racing is go here at Suzuka, and it looks like a decent start for Henry Fuerte. Has got a bit of a jump on Stefan Zero, will be ahead and on the inside line into turn 1. Gets through nice and cleanly, but look at that. The Lexus just having a little nibble at the likes of Stefan Zero. That's Christopher Verstappen. He's got past Peter Hedberg right on the start, and he's wanting to get past Stefan Zero right on the start as well, and will get past Stefan Zero right on the start. Verstappen up to 2nd after just a few corners, and it looks like Hedberg's going to follow through as well into 3rd.
Super close racing there. Obviously, start of the hour, still plenty of time to go. I'm very surprised these guys are making it this close through the S's. But everybody off to a clean start. Not seeing anybody lagging at the back today. So hopefully this pack stays super close and super tight. And definitely excited to see what comes of tonight's race.
Yeah, everyone getting through the first sector nice and clean. Touch wood that it will continue. Joe McCauley, by the way, has made up 3 places on the start already. He's making up ground and looking to make up another place into the hairpin as well, I believe, as he's just got past the likes of Rudy Philmalter. So make that 4 places now for Joe McCauley on the start. We look at Stefan Zero, who got shuffled back just a bit there in the first few corners. Just couldn't really hold his own at that point, and Christopher Verstappen, well, he heard the sirens of Henry Fuerte on pole and knew he had to do something about it, and keeping himself there in 2nd place is one of the best things he can do to deny Henry Fuerte a chance at taking that championship. As we look just a bit further back, Stefan Zero just continuing here, and Nico Kumpu is in 6th place as well. He's got ahead of Jake Boswell, so he's dropped down to 7th, but Jake Boswell won't mind too much because his closest competitor is Robin Klaus, all the way down in 11th. He's also in the silver class. Andy Boardman in 3rd, and it is looking very, very close between some of the silver drivers. Mark Nosk and Joe Dorber very close with each other there as well. And Joe McCauley just at the moment trying to get through this absolute monster of a pack of silver drivers, and we've already got a car off and into the pit lane to do their mandatory stop, and it looks like Hagstrom Vigeskjær in the 81 has jumped first, but they're not alone. Jordan Daly and Tom Watts and Phil Roberts look like they've all joined him as well.
Yeah, Phil Roberts, I did catch at the back of the opening lap in the hairpin. Had a bit of a tangling with Rudy Philmalter, spun them both round into the barrier, which is why those 2 guys have jumped early. As for Vigeskjær, we've seen him before get that mandatory stop out of the way early to kind of promote himself that clean air and just kind of get pushing as the drivers come out of the pit lane. Just watching out the window here, we've got Jordan Daly ahead of Hagstrom Vigeskjær, and we've got Tom Watts coming out behind in the Ukrainian car, followed by Phil Roberts, and eventually Rudy Philmalter will be on his way. But as we look back towards Joe McCauley here from Victor Nordquist's rear wing on the T-Lex, not making up a considerable amount of ground on the opening lap. 7 positions is merely a scratch in the water on tonight's field. I know he's going to clear this back end fairly quick, but then when he starts getting into the mid-teens, into the top 10s, progress is really going to halt for Joe McCauley, so he's going to have to get that hammer down and get a move on shortly as we look to Benjamin Holman here coming into spoon 1 and spoon 2, chasing down the back of another GTR, and they tangle, they touch on the exit of spoon 2 with Benjamin Holman coming off worse, and Nicholas Nordquist there, I believe, just merrily on his way with a little bit of oversteer. It's kind of opened him up to an attack from the guys behind, but again, you know, not paying attention, run a little bit wide into spoon 2, opens the door, you put your nose in, all of a sudden you've got a car turning in to take the apex, not realising you're there. So yeah, very unlucky there from Benjamin Holman, as we look to Andreas Suzuka now on the back of Nicholas Nordquist through the chicane onto the start finish straight. A little bit of a train forming here. Hopefully we're not going to see that kind of cork in the bottle effect that we have seen previously, although it does look like it with the Lexus up ahead there. I believe that is Nico Kumpu in P6, as Nordquist, I believe, jumps down the inside, and a little bit of contact into turn 1 as well. So Stewart's really going to be reviewing Nordquist's situation here. Two bits of contact within, you know, a short frame of time. Could see some penalties coming through for these guys shortly once the stewards start catching up, and that's kind of concertinaed everybody up behind. Going too wide around all the S's is going to be the slowest way you and your rival can do it, so it's going to open you up to attacks from behind. We've got Andy Boardman in that queue behind. He's been looking very racy in the silver class. He's going to be itching to catch the back of Robin Klaus and the back of Jake Boswell, but he's going to have to clear a few of these pro guys before he can do, which is going to prove quite tricky with the pace we're seeing.
Yeah, a few touches and bumps going on around the field, but it doesn't look like anything too significant. And we have Benjamin Heilman in the pit lane. I wonder if that is a tow back to pit lane that Benjamin Heilman's done, or if he came in to get his pit stop out of the way early. I'm not too sure. We'll have to find out from that, but he is coming out of the pit lane now and is on his way. So we'll keep you up to date to see what was that. And in fact, a particularly long pit stop for Benjamin Harmon. So I wonder if maybe there's some damage to repair there, or was accidentally taken tyres. I'm not too sure. We'll have to find out a bit later on. But as we look on board here with Stefan Zero at the moment in 4th place, trying to get back into those podium positions right here. We have Klaus nearing just ahead, who managed to jump them really early, managed to squeeze on through when Christopher Verstappen managed to find their way. But here we go, Stefan Zero is not going to give them that podium position easily. They want to take it back. They want to get back into the top 3 right now and contending against Klaus nearing here, but not able to do so, nearing on the inside line. Just goes a bit wide through the 2nd stage of the 1st corner, but plenty of grip there to keep the car in front, and carries on into the S's. So Stefan Zero will have to try again at some later stage. We got more drivers in the pit lane as well. Rob Taplin, Andy Baldwin, Joe Dilbert and Thibault Roskam all getting their pit stops done early.
Yeah, I think people are wanting to get that clear air to kind of push on, as we saw the Concertina back up behind everybody in the S's on that last lap. Wasn't the ideal place to be. Get it pitted early, get out of the way, get yourself in some clean air. A bit like Hagstrom, Vigashie has tried with Jordan Daly. Those guys are pushing on down the back end of the field. Andy Boardman has come out ahead of them, so in theory Andy Boardman is the lead car in the pits now. So it's going to be one to keep an eye on, see how much he can claw back on Boswell, see if he can clear some of the pro guys on their stops, and yeah, see if he can take his championship contention a little bit further.
Joe McCauley, 16th place is where he is at the moment. Started all the way back in 27th. Some pit stops ahead of him have definitely helped him, but getting further up the order, and he has just a bit of clean air ahead of him at the moment to really get some laps down. Jake Boswell, though, 6th place overall at the moment, first in silver, and doing a very good job here as he tries to stalk down the likes of Peter Henneberg and maybe try and make it a 5th place overall at the moment. Jake Boswell doing a fantastic job right here, and looking very good as they both go very wide through the... Oh, Jake Boswell maybe just missed the braking point there and almost into the back of the 77, managed to save it. Didn't quite end up in the back, but my word, came very close. And Jake Boswell nicely saved there to avoid what could have been a very big accident at the Casio Triangle.
Certainly very sketchy braking there from Boswell. I've done it many a time myself. You kind of zone out, focus so much on 130R that you just kind of forget that the chicane exists, even though you've done it for the previous, half an hour of the race, and it just plays on your mind forever and a day after that. You'd always have your eyes on stalks trying to find your braking point. It's a very tricky corner to get right on brakes, and yeah, if you miss it by literally at that fraction, it can be very detrimental to you and possibly the car ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely. So here is Matthew Kingston Lee, sits 13th place at the moment, and this is third in class right now for Matthew Kingston Lee, so looking like a pretty good result for them right now. They're currently sitting, I believe, is it second? Yeah, it is second in the silver standings at the moment with 86 points. They've been one of the contenders to Andy Boardman's championship right now in the silver classification. Boardman's got his pit stop done and out of the way, but he needs to make sure he doesn't end up in traffic. Well, that could work in Matthew Kingston Lee's favour later on in the race. And well, this little train that you're seeing here is the train that Joe McCauley has got to find his way through right now. He's caught up to the back of the number 19. The problem is the number 19 is a pro car, so it's got even less incentive to just, let Joe McCauley free. They are racing for position and, well, positioning class, which will mean a lot more to the likes of Victor Nordquist. And Joe McCauley now has to try and find a way through on the Sim Brothers, on the T-Lex as it's been named throughout the series, although it looks like Joe McCauley's got a very, very good run out of Spoon, and I think maybe there Victor Nordquist thinking, Joe McCauley, very, very quick driver, definitely not the person that I'm racing for a result here today. Maybe just let him through, try and slipstream him and see if he can follow him up the order.
I mean, certainly not the person that I'd be taking a battle to in pro classes. We see a Lexus ahead there, maybe outbreak itself. Kingston Lee in the silver class there, possibly doing Jake Boswell there and just kind of forgetting to brake, focusing so hard on 130R and the back of the car ahead. But going back to my point, Joe McCauley, not a driver that I'd want behind me at all. Proper aggressive driver, can really stick it to the back bumper of you, and if you spend more time watching your mirrors, chances are you're just going to lose more time by not letting him through. Like you say, allow him through and possibly get a little bit of slipstream off him, and drag yourself back up to the back of the cars that you've lost contact with on the opening few laps of this race.
So as Joe McCauley looks at his next target, which is Matthew Kingston Lee in the silver class, he'll want to get past as quick as possible, and it might be within Matthew Kingston Lee's best interest to not lose too much time here with Joe McCauley. Their battle is not against each other, although with that mistake that Kingston Lee just made, he has lost his podium position that he was in. So now, right behind Atzwanger, wants to try and take that place back, but at the moment just being hounded by the number one car right now, and Joe McCauley will be looking and looking and looking for every opportunity to get past. And I am very, very surprised that Joe McCauley didn't decide very early on to be one of the drivers on the first lap to come into the pit lane and get that mandatory pit stop out of the way and try and find themselves some clean air for as long as they could. But maybe Joe McCauley going for the alternative strategy and hoping that a lot of people would pit early on ahead of him, kind of like they have, so that he could try and get some clean air in the middle phase of the race and then just try and overcut them all towards the end.
Certainly going to be a tricky drive doing it that way round, but again, who knows what's going on in Joe McCauley's head. He could have a dastardly plan up his sleeve to try and gain as many positions as he can. Like you say, if it was me personally, I would probably be dropping into the pits quite early, trying to get that clean air. We've seen it pay off before at tracks like Zandvoort, definitely paid off quite well there, and I believe the Nürburgring possibly paid off quite well there. So it's got a proven history of pitting early, so I mean, drag yourself in, get that 1 litre of fuel in, and then get on your way. As we see, the stewards are starting to wake up, issuing some penalties. We've got Atzwanger in the 309 being given a drive-through penalty for a collision.
Yeah, so that's lap 3, turn 18, involving the 66 and the 309. 309 misses the braking point and takes out the 66, and I believe we might have a race replay. So that was Andy Boardman that they had a collision with, and oh, yeah, you can kind of see it there. Oh, and it caused a big, big mess behind as well. I think that was Mark Noss that kind of got caught up in that. on lap 3, and that would explain why Mark Noska's probably dropped down the silver order just a bit. And well, not great. And it's one of the issues that you have when you cause an accident like that and you don't want to take the position. You try and slow down to see if you can avoid taking the position or try and give it back, and it can sometimes just create a bit of a cork in the bottle right behind you and cause further accidents. So I'm sure that the stewards will have to have a little bit of a look as to what exactly happened behind. But so far, apart from that drive-through penalty, everything else has been no further action, just some small contacts and taps where nobody's really gained or lost anything.
Yeah, it's certainly tricky, like you say. You don't want to take the position away from such an unfair shove that you've clearly seen where you've gone wrong. But sometimes it's better just to get the hammer down, get clear of that kind of bottleneck that you've just created, and slow down maybe on the start-finish straight. You're going to lose more than one place that way, but at least you're not going to have that kind of like concertina effect of, the guy right at the back of the queue of 4 hasn't paid attention. The guy at the front kind of has, but as we see, Atzvanger just looking out the window, coming in to serve that drive-through penalty. So he's going to have to make 2 trips through the pit lane for the drive-through, and then obviously he's going to have to serve his pit stop later on. So we might see him come through the pits twice in one lap, as we look to the splitter of Nico Kumpu here, chasing down the back of Jake Boswell, our silver class leader. Again, Jake not wanting to give up that position. He's only got 3 cars between him and Robin Klaus behind him too. He's going to try and want to keep that gap as kind of like large as he can. Boswell with a clean air as well. He's just going to be trying to focus on getting the hammer down and getting as far ahead as he can at the silver field before the pit stops happen. But the majority of them have already taken them, although we've still got Robin Klaus to take his, Matthew Kingston Lee, Mark Nosk and Atzvanger to take one as well, who's to serve the drive-through penalty.
You can see Mikhail Sundström there just behind Nico Kumpu. Sundström in 8th place at the moment. If he gets past Nico Kumpu, he'll be up into his very, very familiar 7th place finish so far this season. And I'm sure Mikhail will chuckle to himself about that if he gets this move done in the next few laps. And definitely enjoying himself out there in the sushi machine or whatever. I can't quite remember what that car's called, but it has a cute sushi face on the side of it, and it looks absolutely adorable. So it's Swift Sushi, there we go. Broadcaster Ryan Wilson helping me out behind the scenes, the hero. But yeah, the fantastic livery on the side of that car, and there has been some great liveries out throughout the course of the season. We hope to see some fantastic liveries throughout the course of next season as well, and see what all sorts of interesting ideas people can come up with. This is Robin Klaus, sits 10th place overall at the moment, 2nd in silver. And they are right behind the likes of Nicholas Norquist, find themselves in a bit of a pro sandwich at the moment.
Yeah, Robin Klaus certainly has shown some good pace this season. He's always been mixing it with the bottom end of the pro guys, so possibly maybe time for a promotion in his next championship. Depending, obviously, the talent that turns up. We've got some few big names here, but not the usual suspects you see, such as Jardia, George Boothby, those kind of super quick guys in comparison. I would personally put myself in silver, but with them missing, tickle the top end of silver / bottom end of pro. It would be nice to see Robin trying to fight these bigger guys for their positions, rather than worried about his little old silver positioning.
So Robin Klaus chasing down Nicholas Norquist to see how much they can work their way up the order. They'll be looking at Jake Boswell as their primary target for today. Obviously Jake Boswell just leading the way at the moment, and probably not thinking about pitting anytime soon, really. Jake Boswell not being held up at all, really. He's got some a nice gap, 2.3 seconds ahead of him. Doesn't look like he's being troubled too much by Nico Kumpu behind, because Kumpu's eyes have started to go backwards towards Mikhail Sundström. So for the silver leader at the moment, it's all looking pretty good, whereas 2nd place in silver got a bit of work to do. And there is the Mikhail Sundström in the Swift Sushi car, and chasing down Nico Kumpu right now. And it's one of those battles we've got going on of the northern territories. I won't say Scandinavia, because I know that Finland technically doesn't count as Scandinavia. when you look it up. Although we have had plenty of Scandinavian drivers in the series so far this season. If you saw the championship standings earlier, you would have seen that the second half of the top 10 was all filled out by Swedish and Danish drivers, which is pretty interesting, and some very good representation from Scandinavian countries this season, and long may it continue.
Yeah, sorry to jump in here, but I've just noticed Joe McCauley has dropped it again at the exit of 130R, so it's going to be detrimental to that charge towards the front as he comes in possibly to take some new tyres. Was a pretty hefty spin, slid it to a stop as well, so going to have some huge flat spots in that NSX. So whether he takes the 30 seconds for the tyres or whether he just drops that 1 litre in and gets going again, but it's not going to be good for them tyres. He's already been pushing quite hard throughout the beginning of the race, and dropping it and skidding it to a standstill like that is not ideal.
I think the main point for Joe McCauley, though, that he'll take away is that he didn't end up in a barrier this time, and no damage on that car, just the tyres that will have suffered a bit. And I think he is going to take tyres as well, because he's stationary for a lot longer than what would be a splash and dash right now. So Joe McCauley definitely looks like he's going to take the tyres there, and probably the wise decision to do as well. Jordan Daly has been given a drive-through penalty, I've just seen, for causing a collision. And looking in the penalty report, 197 and 81, drive-through penalty for the 197. 197 is wide into the corner, allowing the 81 to go for a gap, but the 197 moves to the inside and takes out the 81 position, not returned. And here we'll see that. So this is Jordan Daly and Hagstrom Vigeskje. And Hagstrom Vigeskje, I mean, there was a gap there that opened up, and whether Jordan Daly, I mean, the stewards can see a lot more than we can, John, whether Jordan Daly intentionally just closed that gap once Hagstrom Vigeskje had enough of an overlap, or whether there was some element of loss of control involved. We don't entirely know, but the stewards have decided that either way, it's enough for a penalty. So you can only assume that Jordan Daly closed the door rather forcefully there.
Yeah, it's quite easy to kind of get some understeer going into the second part of Spoon Curve. The curbing in the middle that separates the two corners can often drag the front end wide. At that point, obviously, you would then apply more lock, and then at the point of applying more lock, the car grips up again, and although it looks like the door has been shut, sometimes it's just kind of like the car has grip again, and it's finally hit the apex, but with Vigeskje that close behind, maybe not spotting him in his mirror creeping up, almost an absolute identical kind of collision that we saw earlier with, I believe it was Heilmann and one of the Nordquist brothers in their GTR. Literally a mirror copy. The door opens in Spoon 2, the guy goes for the gap, all of a sudden door shuts, collision happens, and one of them comes worse off, unfortunately.
The Lexus is one of those cars that has kind of been touted for being poor visibility as well, isn't it? I know that the pillars that it's got on the side, I mean, I've heard Bart Matcher talk about it countless times about how much he hates it, and how the visibility out of the car isn't great. So probably on the Lexus, perhaps just a couple more blind spots than you could get maybe on the likes of the Nissan or the Honda, perhaps.
Yeah, certainly can be tricky as we look towards Andy Boardman's kind of helmet cam here. You can see that A pillar is quite thick, even just for the standard kind of car pillar, and then on top of that you've got that massive pole for the roll cage coming down on that A pillar. So yeah, it can be very tricky to spot drivers kind of creeping up on you, kind of in your peripherals. It's not an easy car at all. Whereas the other cars in the field, such as the NSX, kind of have a little bit of better visibility, slightly skinnier A pillars, slightly set further forward towards the hood, which kind of opens up the windscreen to allow a little bit more visibility. But again, it's all a case of just watching the mirrors, seeing if you can predict where that guy's disappeared. If he's no longer behind you in your mirror, he's going to be alongside you somewhere, and chances are he's not going to be on the outside of you. He is going to be on the inside, especially if you've opened up a gap in Spoon 2 like we keep seeing.
Well, Nicholas Nordquist can definitely see Robin Klaus behind and has been going defending, and a bit of a drift there from the 137 coming through the second part of the first corner, but manages to keep that Nissan in front of Robin Klaus. But it looks like only a matter of time until the 649 can find their way through, and looking a bit further down the field. Joe McCauley's come out and he did indeed change tyres, so that was exactly what we did think it would be for Joe McCauley, and he's come out in 24th place, so all the way right down the back of the order. And I have to say now, John, I mean, if he's going to win this championship, he needs an absolute miracle here. He needs Henry Fuerte to, well, definitely not win the race. He needs Christopher Verstappen to definitely not win the race. And I think he'll need a couple of other drivers to have a pretty poor result if he's going to get anything now out of this performance.
Yeah, certainly so. It's not looking good for Joe McCauley. He's going to need some kind of catastrophic failure of, you know, the next 20 cars up the road to even get anywhere near a chance of really good points here. But again, there's still quite a lot of cars to pit, but I don't think he's in that window now to leapfrog him after taking tyres. Seen it a lot in this championship. A lot of drivers adopting for the 1 litre of fuel and getting on their way, keeping the same tyres, you know, saving yourself 30 seconds in the pit lane on stationary time. It's a big gap. You know, McCauley's going to be pushing like mad now. He's got those slightly fresher tyres. He hasn't got to make them last as long, so he's going to have a bit more pace to extract out of them. But it's not going to be an easy task. You know, quite a lot of big drivers ahead, quite a lot of defensive drivers, as we saw a few of them putting up a fight, such as Victor Nordquist in the Lexus that we're looking at ahead of Matthew Kingston-Lee here. Kingston-Lee going a little bit wide at 130R, something you don't want to be doing. You want to keep your track limits to a minimum. It's so easy to get caught out here at Degner, at Spoon, at 130R on that extra bit of AstroTurf. You think, oh, I'll just take a little bit more, and then all of a sudden you've racked up 3 kind of track cuts, and yeah, you're coming into the pit lane for a drive-through of some kind. But looking down the timing board, Joe McCauley is on the fastest lap at the moment, so he is getting the hammer down. But yeah, whether or not he can gain those 20 positions, it's going to be something magical. If I was Verstappen, I'd literally just be focusing on holding that P2 at the moment, just trying to drive away from Nyring and Stefan Zero, try and get yourself that clean pit stop, straight into the pits, 1 litre in, straight out again, no messing about at all. But again, it's not as easy when you have this kind of like lack of pressure almost. It's super tricky to stay switched on. You kind of become a bit laxed and a bit dazed, and you're just kind of meandering about the circuit, not really focused, and then stuff starts creeping up on you. So it's important for Verstappen to stay very focused in this last half of the race.
Yeah, very easy for the mind to wander when you don't have that pressure on you, but that's exactly what Henry Fuerte will be hoping happens to Christopher Verstappen. But Verstappen's been in this situation before. He knows exactly what to do, and I'm sure he's going to keep himself focused. 1.3 second gap to Nyring behind. But of course, Nyring is a bit occupied at the moment with Stefan Zero breathing down his neck, as he has done pretty much for the entire race so far, and I don't think that Nyring's really in the mood, should we say, to go and take it to Verstappen right now. Has other things occupying his thoughts as Stefan Zero just continues to hound him right now, and you have to wonder for the GC Racing car, when is this move going to get done? Will this move get done in the pit stop? Could be done by an overcut or an undercut indeed. And when you're like this with Stefan Zero and you're going quicker than the car ahead, you just can't find a way through. You know that if they go into the pit lane and they come back out, you've got some clean air, you can maybe go and set in some quick laps, or do you want to try and go into the pit lane yourself early to try and undercut them, but then of course that gives them the advantage of being able to just directly respond to your early pit stop. So for Stefan Zero right now has pretty much 2 choices: gamble on an undercut, or just slug it out right now and hope that they can get them on the overcut.
It can be super tricky to judge whether you need an undercut or an overcut. The risky run with pitting is obviously you come out in that mid-pack where people are still locked in their fights, they're still locked in that kind of infamous like mid-pack train, and then you become a part of it and you just lose even more time. So I think if I was Stefan Zero, I'd be watching for when Nyring's diving into the pits. As soon as he dives, either try and dive with him if you've set your car up in that manner, or go another lap, try and get the hammer down, and then dive in after him to try and kind of get that jump made. But it is a super tricky call to make in these 1 hour races where you do pit. You've got a massive pit window, pit at the start, pit at the end, just pit somewhere, but it all hinges on what your rivals are doing.
So it does, and Stefan Zero continues to hound down Klaus Nyring, so the 21 and the 721 will continue to duke it out for that podium position at the moment in Pro. Jake Boswell, though, just minding his own business right now, although Nico Kumpu has pulled the gap away from Mikhail Sundstrom now, so he is closing a bit in on the 47, but Jake Boswell doesn't have to worry about that too much right now. His closest competitor in class, Robin Klaus, down in 10th place at the moment, and I think there is probably a good 8 or so seconds between them right now, so doesn't have to worry that much. And Matthew Kingston Lee has actually got back into 3rd place, I've noticed. That could be due to drivers coming into... Oh no, it would have been because of Atswanga's drive-through penalty. That's correct. So Matthew Kingston Lee back up into 3rd place, but plenty of drivers in silver having done their pit stops. Just Jake Boswell, Robin Klaus, Kingston Lee, Nosk and Atswanga have to pit still, and Andy Boardman is the leading car of those silver drivers that have pitted, so he'll be looking to gain as many places as he can. And that is Klaus Nearing and Stefan Zero caught up in an accident at turn 1.
I didn't want to interject, but yeah, I did spot that one. I don't know if Nearing maybe missed his braking point, ran into the back of Stefan Zero. Zero did get the jump done into the chicane at the end of the lap. Made a very late lunge after 130R, very late on the brakes. Surprised he even stopped for the corner. And then Nearing possibly misjudging the braking point, having to follow a car into the first turn, just run up the back of Stefan Zero. Although Nearing obviously backing out, allowing the position to remain the same. Lost a little bit of time to the guys behind, but nothing too drastic. Still a massive gap there. You can see just in the background the cars coming through spoon 1 as they are coming through spoon 2. As we head up to 130R now, it seems Stefan Zero is pulling out a tiny little gap on Nearing. Possibly Nearing shaking himself up with that incident. Doesn't want to get too close to the back of Stefan Zero. Maybe Zero not as confident on the brakes as Nearing is. Maybe running those different pads. You know, you've got pads 1, pads 2. Pads 1 do stop a little bit better, but I do find personally they fade a little bit into the race, whereas pads 2 stay a little bit more consistent. As we see Stefan Zero here diving into the pit lane, possibly to take his stop and maybe take tyres if that, you know, instance caused a huge flat spot and a massive drift around turn 1 and into turn 2. As we look back here from Benjamin Heilman, we've got a very racy Joe Macaulay coming up the outside of him to turn it into the inside, into the chicane. Very brave move from Joe Macaulay, not hanging about at all, not wanting to waste any more time than he already has with that spin at 130R and the, you know, tyres he had to take at the pit stop. If I was Rob Taplin, after seeing that, I'd be steering well clear of Joe Macaulay when he gets near my rear wing. Just let him go. Just literally don't even fight it.
You got to give Joe Macaulay his credit. He's in. I say he's in as if he doesn't have this mode, or doesn't have any other mode, but he's full send mode at the moment. It's Joe Macaulay, but
he is definitely wound up to maximum attack.
He's doing it safely, though. He's doing it safely, which is the important thing.
Certainly so. I mean, as a driver, seeing that kind of car come around your outside into the kink before the hairpin, you just kind of pray that your front end's going to stick through the corner. You're not going to get any little bit of understeer. It's just going to drift you wide into the door of Joe Macaulay. As we see a 15-second penalty coming through for Klaus Nearing. Possibly the stewards have witnessed the move into turn 1 and have punished quite harshly for that one. So it's going to be a big time loss for Klaus at the front of the field as Joe Macaulay looks to the outside of Rob Taplin going into turn 1. Taplin not giving up as easy as I thought he would. Macaulay having to work a little bit to try and get that Honda alongside, but fantastic driving from these two guys. It's definitely great to see Joe Macaulay having to battle someone rather than, you know, being gifted the pole and kind of, you know, just running away with it like we saw at Zandvoort.
Yeah, and Joe Macaulay, I mean, the thing is, it's unfortunate for him, but, you know, he knows better than anyone that he has no one else to blame than himself for the situation that he's in. He was the one that, you know, had the accident on his first flying lap, and that caused him to hit the wall and then had to return to pit lane, and then he invalidated his only lap that he could actually go back out and get in. So, you know, Joe Macaulay's fully aware that he's the one that's put himself in this situation. Of course, the spin he had again at 130R did not help. you know, but right now he's just got to keep pushing, he's just got to keep going, and, you know, you never give up in any situation, even if the situation for the championship looks pretty hopeless right now. He's just going to keep going as he gets closer and closer to the back of that Lexus. I think at some point you're not going to be able to get a piece of paper between these two cars, and Joe McCauley ever shrinking the gap, and Rob Taplin's going to try and defend. He's going to leave just enough room for a Honda to go on the inside, but Joe McCauley's not going to commit to it, and Rob Taplin, he's going to make him earn this one.
Fairly great to see these guys duking out. I don't think you could get a better shot of the underside of the Lexus diffuser than we just got with Joe McCauley's splitter cam there. Absolutely fantastic driving from these two guys. Being this close is not easy, and like you say, Rob Taplin just leaving enough gap for a Honda to fit through, but Joe McCauley thinking better of it. Joe McCauley jinking to the right, looking to the inside into turn one. Slight overlap. I think Taplin has literally run himself a little bit wide to try and get the undercut into two, but McCauley positioning the car perfectly on the apex there to block any kind of extra run that Taplin would have had out of there. So McCauley opening himself up now to some clean air to try and get on to the back of Tom Watts and Joe Dorber ahead of him in the silver class. Got a few positions there to make up. We've got Atzvanger still to take a pit stop, but a lot of the midfield are still outstanding on that pit stop. So could be very interesting. Again, if they make a mistake in the pit lane, you know, too fast in, could cost them a drive-through stop and go. Or, you know, missing the marks on that 1 litre of fuel. It sounds so simple just to drop 1 litre of fuel in the car and go again, but it'd be amazing amount of times even I've overshot my box, even in the endurance races with zero pressure on my shoulders at all. It's so easy just to miss your mark.
Yeah, it is very easy, and you know, it's why some of the top level drivers will spend so long practicing those pit stops, get them perfect, you know, dead on the marks as well, and it can save so much time. As we just saw Rudy Philmalter there, I believe it was just moving over to let a couple of the pro cars go through. In fact, no, it was Robin Klaus. Robin Klaus and Andrew Sarka, sorry, yes, as I had to double take on that one, just letting them through. As Rudy Philmalter finds himself all the way back in 25th and at the back of the field. Not been a great race for the 999, and I don't think it's been a particularly spectacular season for Rudy Philmalter either. Oh no, 6th place actually, but did pick up 0 points last time out at Laguna Seca. Is on course to pick up some points here this evening, but probably not as many points as they would have expected. Still 24 minutes to go, of course, of the race. But Rudy in the 999 Lexus has their work cut out for them.
Great to see Rudy still sticking at it, even after the abysmal kind of start on the opening lap, ploughing into the wall with Phil Roberts in the GTR, having to take an extended pit stop to fix damage. You know, he's not given up. He is still in the race. Raced against Rudy a few times in various leagues, and yeah, very good driver, very clean, very fair, and yeah, great to see South Africa being represented on the field on this race.
Just seen Mikael Sundström is in 6th place, so he's one higher than his average finishing position so far this season, and he was one behind it just not long ago, and we'll have to see if Mikael Sundström can keep this 6th place now, or whether he'll lose it once all the pit stops come out and are said and done. Klaus Naring has that 15-second penalty to serve, and I believe, looking at the timing sheet just to try and figure out how far back that 15-second goes, and I believe it goes all the way back to Nicholas Nordquist in 7th place. So as it stands right now, Naring after the pit stops would be falling all the way to 7th place right now. That would bump Sundström and Nordquist, Kumpu, Boswell all up by 1 position. So they would be the main benefactors of that so far, and it would put Robin Klaus kind of close as well to the likes of Klaus Naring. So not great for the 21, but we'll have to get that served at some point during their pit stop. And there is Peter Henneberg now closing down on Mark Nosk. Mark Nosk is one of the silver drivers who has not got their pit stop out of the way yet. And just continuing on, they were caught up in that accident at the Casio Triangle that we saw. It was when, was it Florian Atzwanger went into the back of Andy Boardman, I believe it was, and then just caused a bit of a concertina effect and just plugged up the chicane a bit. I think it was Mark Noss that just got spun round for a moment. So hasn't been a great race for the number 18, and the peak of their season so far looked like that first round win that they got at Zandvoort in the silver class. But still sticking at it, still going, and still seeing if they can get a top 3 towards the end of this season to finish it out. And that would be great for Mark Doss, because he finished, I think it was 3rd in the AM class in last season for the Euromasters season 2, and is very much looking forward to competing in the silver class this time around. And a top 5 in the silver class, or maybe even a top 3, would be a fantastic way to show the progression that he's had over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, certainly Mark Noss, not a name I really knew of until fairly recently. He does stream alongside on Twitch as well, which is always great to see. A driver's perspective, seeing the kind of emotions that they get behind the wheel. I know sometimes I can get a bit vocal on my end when stuff doesn't quite go my way, but hey, it's you take the rust with the smooth. Mark Noss getting the win at Zandvoort, not had the best races here, getting Constantined up in the chicane. As we turn to a race replay here of Peter Henneberg getting past Mark Nosk, going up into 130R side by side. Again, not the kind of move you want to be defending on the outside. Nosk backing out very early from that. Henneberg running himself quite wide, backing out, and then jumping back on the brakes later than Nosk to get the jump into the chicane. Just about gets Alexis pulled up and slips through on Mark Nosk. So maybe Henneberg now can get the hammer down and start kind of climbing up to the back of Nicholas Nordqvist in the GTR. Both the drivers have already taken their pit stop, so not something you've got to worry about. Just got to drill in those lap times to try and catch your rival. As we see Joe McCauley here jumping past Tom Watts into turn 1. Tom Watts not fighting that one particularly hard. I think McCauley was expecting him to. Nearly ran himself too deep into turn 2. But again, another position gain for McCauley up to P20. Next on the agenda is Joe Dorber in the number 7 GTR.
Yeah, so Joe McCauley making his way through, and like you said, we'll be aiming at Joe Dorber next, and to see, probably is enjoying himself to some extent, making his way through the field. We'd probably just hope that he would be a bit higher up than he actually is right now. Has the fastest lap of the race though, so could be leaving here with at least that merit to his name. Has taken that away from the likes of Henry Fuerte, who took the pole position points at the end of qualifying. This is Andy Boardman in the 66 Lexus, and he's chasing down Hagstrom Vigeskjær right now in the 81 Nissan. And this is also a driver very, very out of place, John. The 81 showed absolutely fantastic pace in the first few races of the season, but looks like they've struggled really here at Suzuka. Didn't start that high up the order, and well, finding themselves in 16th place overall at the moment. Yes, they've done their mandatory pit stop. Yes, they'll jump up a few places once all the other pit stops have come out, but this is a driver that we've been seeing fighting and finishing top 5 a couple of times this season.
Yeah, certainly surprised to see the Swede so far down compared to his fellow Swede in the other sushi car, the 899 of Sundström, up in P6. We've always seen Hagstrom Vigeskjær, towards the top end of the field, so seeing him this far down kind of suggests that maybe the GTRs are struggling here. The highest place one we've got is P6, and then the next one we don't see until P15, which is Nicholas Nordqvist ahead of Hagstrom Vigeskjær in the 81. Maybe the GTR are a little bit too bulky, a little bit too cumbersome for these kind of, agile corners. You've got to try and get the cars wrestled around. Lexus looking like a better platform, but, the very strong platform here is the Honda, as Fuerte is absolutely running away with this race on Verstappen. Verstappen possibly dialing it back a little bit, maybe doesn't want to take massive risks, wants to kind of keep it clean. He knows Joe McCauley is P20 and not looking to gain a lot, so could just be playing it safe. As we see Andy Boardman here jumping past Hagstrom Vigeskjær going up the hill into the hairpin. Got to watch for the switchback on the GTR. No such luck this time. GTR maybe turbo a little bit slow spooling up compared to the Lexus naturally aspirated engine gets the run out of the corner, although looking towards the outside of Spoon 1. Is it going to stick? Not particularly, pretty hard place to pass, but there we see the classic Spoon 2 with the door open. Vigashu puts his nose down the inside, and again it could have been quite easily chopped off, and a third incident in the exact same manner that we've seen the other two. But you know, Vigashu maybe thinking better of that, backing out of it a little bit, thinking he'll have another crack at Andy Borman coming down towards 130R. Maybe stretch the legs of the GTR if they can, but again looking way too far back at the moment for a lunge into the chicane. And speaking of lunges, Stefan Zero getting very lungy up behind Matthew Kingston-Lee going into turn 1. Stefan Zero obviously with that ground to make up after his pit stop on Nyring with a 15-second penalty, so in theory Stefan Zero should be able to jump his closest rival at the front of the field on the next pit stops.
Yeah, definitely should be able to. And just to touch on a point, you know, you were talking about the Nissan. Oh, as we see Stefan Zero here going to get a move done on Kingston Lee. Kingston Lee not really defending that one too much. You mentioned the Nissans here maybe just struggling a bit, you know, compared to the Lexus, but the Honda's definitely looking very, very strong out here. I mean, does it come as a bit of a shock to you, John, that, I mean, we've only had 3 Hondas this season out here on the grid, and all 3 of them find themselves in the top 5 so far in the standings before this race. I mean, is the Honda just one that, for this calendar, just not really many people gave it a proper consideration of how strong it could possibly be over these 4 races?
Potentially. I mean, the general consensus with the Honda is like, it's almost like the Audi R8, but more like deathly. So you've got more chance of spinning it. You've got, you know, normally you're not on the favourable end of the BOP compared to other cars in the field that are, you know, the kind of meta picks. But with the meta picks not being in this race, I think a lot of people have potentially overlooked the Honda as a car that could have been quite strong this season. Most people picking the Lexus. I mean, it is probably the best all-rounder, in my opinion. It's quite stable, it's quite easy to drive. The GTR can be a little bit of a handful with those turbos. They can kick in at, you know, the uttermost wrong time. I've had a few events at Bathurst where I picked the GTR, and it can be quite tricky compared to, you know, easier cars that you could pick, such as the Lexus. Drove that for a season with OVRC, which was quite stable, quite enjoyable. To be fair, didn't have any issues, quite smooth power delivery, and I think at the time it was on the kind of favourable end of the BOP scale compared to the other cars. But I think a lot of people have just kind of thought Honda equals death, equals slow, equals stupidly fast in a straight line. I'm not going to pick it because I'm not going to do well with it. But then we've seen, you know, Henry Huerta, Giuseppe D'Anna and Joe Macaulay doing exceptionally well at every track. The Honda has been up there in one guise or another. So I think next time, if there is another Asian Masters with maybe some Japanese tracks, if they are coming on the Asian calendar, you know, maybe we might see a few more Hondas after this result.
Well, it would be great to see some new Hondas, or more Hondas rather, on the grid if we did have a second instalment of this. And I think a lot of the drivers have enjoyed this. I think this would be a championship that probably would be welcomed back for a second season in the future if we had maybe some more Asian tracks to visit. And of course we do hope to potentially see a couple, maybe more American tracks come later this year. Of course, we already saw Kota tease, and there could be more coming as well in the future. We'll have to see as Joe Macaulay goes up the inside of Atswanga here and makes their way through. And who knows? Maybe we'll have something like an America Masters later this year when Kota comes out. Of course, we already have Laguna Seca, and if we have a couple more American tracks coming along the way alongside Kota, we could put together a bit of a mini-series over in the States, and I'm sure plenty of people would enjoy that, given how immensely requested, I think, is probably the correct term to use, the American tracks have been. A lot of people, when asked, you know, what would you like the next addition to ACC to be? A lot of people have said American Trackman has probably been the highest one on the list, alongside the Nordschleifer Champs, but I think we know exactly what the answer is going to be indefinitely for that one.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I think the SRO need to go to the Nordschleife ASAP so we can, you know, badger Kunos even more to get it in the game. But certainly the American trackback, sorry, is looking to be on the cards. We obviously had Kota teased, possibly with a few more in the pipeline. It really wouldn't surprise me, seeing how big, you know, the GT World Challenge in America is getting now. The field is growing, you know, year upon year. I think the first year I watched it, there was maybe about 10 or 12 cars, and I think last time I watched it, we were up into like the early 20s now. So again, it's something that is going to get big stateside. So it would be great to see, you know, some American tracks. I, for one, would love to see Sebring laser scanned in ACC. Would be an immense track with the bumps at, you know, the last turn, the first turn, especially if you're in a Porsche Cup car. That could be insanely rattly for your wrists and your wheelbase. But again, Asia tracks would be welcome as well. I think we just need a little bit more track edge in this game. I think the cars are pretty much perfect where they are. It's just we just need a few more locations to drive other than, you know, Spa, Bathurst, Suzuka, Kyalami, all the common ones that come up every year on the calendar. But yeah, I for one would love to see America come next.
Well, I think there's also a lot of there's probably a lot of expectation, maybe this year more than last year. Like we had the 2020 DLC, didn't we? That came with Imola and the two new cars, the Ferrari Evo and the Mercedes Evo. We unfortunately didn't get Magny calls, and the reason for that, from what I know, is that obviously Kunos were restricted to travelling within Italy, and of course Imola being within Italy made it very, very easy for them to just go out there and scan it, but of course they couldn't travel to France because of restrictions and all sorts of stuff. But this year, I mean, looking at the GT World Challenge Europe calendar, they're going to Hockenheim rather than the Nürburgring. The Magny Cause is still on the calendar. Valencia featured last year, and it's back again this year as well. I mean, I think a lot of people, maybe alongside Kota and who knows whatever else comes when Kota gets released, I think a lot of people this year might be hoping and maybe expecting, you know, another European pack to come out. And if you look at that, if you say, okay, we get Kota and maybe 2 more American tracks, that's an extra 3. Then you get the additional 3 from Europe this season. That would be 6. I mean, that would bolster the available selection, you know, massively. And it's that kind of expectation, I think, or, you know, desire that people have now to just get a few more tracks. And I do agree with you. I think the cars are in a fantastic place right now. The 1.8 update really did shake things up, and it'll be great to see how everyone adapts to it over the course of this year, and the cars, I think, are perfectly fine as they are. But I think track-wise we are still missing a few key elements, I think, to really call this complete.
Yeah, big wiggle there from I believe Andy Bortman in the Lexus, allowing Hagstrom Vigashu straight up the inside at Spoon. A very tricky corner. We've seen a lot of incidents, a lot of mistakes happening at the back end of the circuit there. So something you do want to keep your eye on, trying to nail Spoon 1 and 2. I myself have caused many a drive-through penalties from running too wide there. Hold my hands up, completely my fault. Get too eager on the throttle. You think, I can just about make the AstroTurf, and then turns out that the cut line between a cut and a not cut is so fine. It's so easy to do. I'm very surprised we've not seen a single kind of track limits penalty come through yet.
It is unusual here at Suzuka. It's a good shout. It is something that we haven't seen today. That is probably one of the culprits. I mean, it's like this. I think Suzuka, Paul Ricard, and there's a couple of other circuits as well. You would kind of call it DT magnets for track limits, but no such thing out here today so far.
I don't want to curse the commentators, but you never know what might happen as we rear into the final 10 minutes, as we see Rob Taplin slingshotting himself up the inside of Tom Watts into turn 1. A very easy move, made even easier by Tom Watts, just leaving the door open and not defending. Silver class and a pro class car there. Just, you know, you don't want to be battling each other. You just kind of want to get on with it and get a move on to catch a rival. As we see Heilman there just chopping through the front of the shot on Rod Taplin. He'll be his next target, but with only kind of 7 minutes to go, both drivers made their pit stops already. There might not be a position gained here. Speaking of which, we do only have 5.5 minutes for those top guys to come into the pits and take the stop. We've pretty much got P1 to 8 still not pitted. Matthew Kingston Lee in P10 and Mark Nosk in P13. Otherwise, everybody else has served their pit stop in one form or another.
Atswanger came in to serve their pit stop, and they've been hit with a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. I did see that just pop up a moment ago, so their race has gone from bad to worse after that incident with Andy Boardman towards the start of the race. And for them, it's really been a bit of a finale to forget. Robin Klaus and Van Kampen have come into the pit lane, and they will get their stops done and out of the way. And like you said, with the final 5 minutes now of the pit window, final 6 minutes of the race, this is when you're going to see everyone coming into the pit lane to get those stops done and make sure that they do get them done within the pit window. You don't want to be ending up with, I think it's a 2-minute penalty or something along those lines, 2-minute 10-second penalty I think you get hit with if you do not serve your mandatory pit stop within the pit window. So it's definitely something that you want to avoid. And watching Nico Kumbu here chasing down the back of Jake Boswell, this gap has kind of ebbed and flowed throughout the entire course of the race, but right here towards the end it has closed up now, and Jake Boswell, who looks like he is set for a very, very good win here in the silver class, 4th overall at the moment, could move down to 5th, but he's going to want to defend here from Nico Kumpu. And whilst they're not competing for class position, it is overall position that you have every right to fight for, even if it doesn't matter for points.
Yeah, we spoke about it in the past as we see Nico Kumpu peeling away from this fight, jumping into the pit lane, maybe trying to get the undercut on Boswell on his stop. We've only got another lap or so to take the pit stop, so I think Jake will be in next lap. He has left it too late. However, man of the race, it seems, is Henry Fuerte here, driven away from the start super cleanly, left Verstappen in the wake of that NSX, and looking very tidy for the win. Still a pit stop to take, 3 minutes to go on it, so we might see Henry Fuerte jumping in this lap as well, as we've got a few more coming in. We've got Andreas Zaka from P6 coming in as well to serve his mandatory pit stop. But yeah, still Nyring at the front of the field with the 15 seconds to take on top of his stop. Isn't going to be ideal for him. And we've got Jake Boswell that we've just been witnessing. I think he's going to be in this lap to try and get in and get out before Nico Kumpu drives past him on the start-finish straight. As we flick back to Christopher Verstappen here, driven an excellent race so far. Kind of almost mirrored Henry Fuerte's race, kind of got that pass done nice and early at the start, going through the S's. Got it really close, a bit too close for comfort for me. But again, he's just got his head down and got focused ahead. He will be probably another car that we see coming in to the pits this lap. With only 2 minutes 10 on the window, you are going to be cutting it very fine if you try and go for another lap. I don't even think it's possible at this stage for Verstappen. As we flick to Henry Fuerte here, you want to get nice and early on that pit limiter. Don't want to be running yourself over the line at more than 48 kilometers an hour. It's going to absolutely kill your race for you with another pit stop to serve. As we flick back and watch Verstappen navigate the chicane and of course peel in again. Want to get nice and early on that pit limiter, and he does. Klaus Nyring, even with the 15 seconds, you don't want to be adding another penalty to that, so he peels in as well behind. So we're going to see the flurry here of the top four all coming in to serve their stop. Stefan Zero is going to be getting that hammer down, trying to rinse every second of that Lexus he can get out as we flick towards 130R on the run up under the Dunlop Bridge. As little lift, maybe a little dab of the brakes, tires getting a little bit worn. Don't want to run it too wide over the line. Want to get it stopped nicely for the Casio Triangle chicane. Jumping over both curbs. Normally the favoured line here, rounding the last turn past pit entry. Going to see where Stefan Zero comes out in relation to the other drivers, as I believe Boswell is on the move towards the pit limiter line. As we look to the right, Boswell nowhere to be seen, still in the pit lane here. Stefan Zero jumping Boswell, and probably also Nyring with that 15-second penalty. So Stefan Zero climbing up the order, chose to take a stop at an ideal time, I think, and has minimised his time loss from Nico Kumpu there.
So as the final few minutes tick down here, and we see Nico Kumpu. Looks like he has got the likes of Jake Boswell through here. He has got the likes of Jake Boswell, so that move has been done. And Joe McCauley, I've just noticed, up into 10th place after all the pit stops are said and done, and he is chasing down Hagström Vigeskjær right towards the end of the race here for a 9th place finish. Might be able to get this done on the last couple of laps. But, well, thinking about it, all that time he lost 30 extra seconds in the pit lane. Maybe accounting for, 5 or 6 seconds that he could have potentially lost with that spin as well. I mean, if you take that away from him, is he all the way up in 2nd place maybe? Or 3rd? Maybe contending for a podium? We don't know. We'll never know probably. But Joe McCauley, he's put on an overtaking show here today, and whilst it doesn't look like it's going to deliver a championship for him, he's definitely gone out there and driven the best that he could to try and deliver a championship today. But it looks like it will be going the way of Christopher Verstappen as it stands. Henry Fuerte starts the final lap of the race, and that means that the season is almost over. But here comes Joe McCauley though on Hagström Vigeskjær. If he doesn't get it on this time around, he has another lap to go to try and get it, but not going to have a look on this occasion at 130R. Is he going to have a look here at the Casio Triangle? Going to look on the outside line, maybe just try and go for a switchback here, but not quite able to do so. And will continue and maybe eye up a move for turn 1. Hagström Vigeskjær is aware of it, cuts to the inside to defend that inside line. Very, very tight, saying to Joe McCauley, if you want to go around me, you're going to have to go the long way around the outside. And the 81 defending very, very firmly here.
Another great display of two very good drivers giving each other the kind of utmost respect. It's going to get pretty close, I feel. Joe McCauley tries to make a late move just to get past this GTR for another position towards the championship points. However, I have noticed in P7, who is it, Ryan?
Oh, it's only Mikael Sundström in P7 again. Unbelievable, this man's consistency. But Joe McCauley continues to try and find a way around Mikael Sundström's teammate here, Hagström Vigeskjær, who is in 9th place at the moment, will be looking to keep that 9th place, but Joe McCauley wants a couple extra points on his tally for the season. And, well, if he's not careful, Andy Boardman could get involved as well. If there's an accident here, he could gain a couple of places above on the overall positions here. Henry Fuerte is making his way through the final chicane. He's coming around the final corner now. Henry Fuerte in the 86. They will take the win in the final race of the season. It's been dominance from start to finish for the 86 and a thoroughly deserved pole position and win. Christopher Verstappen will come through the Casio Triangle chicane, and they will be the champions in the Pro class. Christopher Verstappen in the 747 has done exactly what they needed to do today, and they will be walking away as the Asia Masters champion in the Lexus 747. Stefan Zero will cross the line to round out in 3rd, but this battle is not done yet, and Joe McCauley is going to have one last chance into the Casio Triangle. He's going to have a move on the outside, turns into the inside. Is he going to get it done? He's going to squeeze Vigeskjær all the way up to the side. There's contact between the two of them, and Joe McCauley on the grass. He's going to have to forfeit it. The stewards will have a little bit of a look at that towards the end of the race, but it's Vigeskjær 9th and Joe McCauley rounding out the top 10 as Jake Boswell takes the honours in the final race of the season in the silver class. But it's Andy Boardman who will take the silver class title with 2nd place at the final round. Well, absolutely unbelievable, and kind of a finale that we would have hoped for as well. There is your winner for tonight, Henry Fuerte. The Austrian absolutely deserved it as well. Fantastic race, fantastic pole position, and really, really did show what they had out there in the Honda here today. They will be finishing in the top 3 of the championship as well to boot. So a very, very incredibly good race from them and some incredible action all season long. Only 4 races long, this championship, but it made for some absolutely fantastic racing and definitely worth watching in the evening. So big, big thank you to all the drivers that have come out for this season, and of course all the viewers as well that have come out here on a Monday evening to watch. We do absolutely love to have your company here on a Monday evening, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time as well when we start off the new season in the new championship, the Challenge Cup, which will be coming in just a couple of weeks' time. We're aiming to have 3 different classes all on the grid at the same time. We have sign-ups and information about the championship dropping at 10 o'clock tonight GMT. That'll be 11 o'clock CET on the Discord or the website. If you are interested, go and check it out. Get yourself involved in next season's Monday Championship. And of course, the series will be live streamed right here on RCI TV as well. So if you're looking for more RCI action this week, we have the Diamond Drive Cup Season 4 starting this time around. Can Queen's Design defend their championship in the Pro Class? We'll have to find out. The Thursday Championship is not going to start this week. I believe they are waiting for the DLC to come out to make use of the new BMW M2 CS, I believe it's called. So we'll have to see what crazy ideas Tom Bryant comes out with for the Thursday Championship. Friday does return as well for round 3, and they're going to be having some action out in Italy, I believe it is. I will have to just double check that. No, it's actually Suzuka. They'll be out here at Suzuka. Sorry, it's Night Owl I'm thinking of. Yeah, so Friday is out here at Suzuka, and Night Owl actually has a bit of a break week going on. No stream for Night Owl this week, but there will be one the week after. The reason it doesn't have a stream this week is because we have the 9 hours of Alton Park this weekend, which has the Cup Car and GT4s involved in some action. So no Night Owl stream because of the endurance race going on there. So plenty to look forward to over the course of the week. We will, of course, have next week off because pre-qualifying will be going on for the Challenge Cup. And of course, as I said before, I do encourage all of you to get involved with that. A big thank you today to our partners, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. They all help us keep RCI running as well as it does. Of course, all the latest sim racing news can be found on racedepartment.com, as well as some fantastic AC mods as well. AK Informatica, our races are run on their servers, so be sure to look into them if you want to know more about server hosting on some high-quality servers. Driver 61, if you want to win like Henry Fuerte, you can get some coaching at Driver 61 for as little as $10 access to their sim racing academy. You can save 25% with our code in the description below. You can use our Fanatec affiliate link if you want to buy some high-quality sim racing gear, and now on a budget as well with the CSL DD base. And that affiliate link supports RCI at no extra cost. And Sim Racing GP, if you're looking to get involved in a community across a variety of different sims, or maybe set up your own community someday, you can check out Sim Racing GP for more information. So from myself, from Ryan Mawson behind the cameras, John Dalton alongside me in the commentary box this season, who's been absolutely fantastic. We had Jesse Lee filling in as well this season for some commentary. All the stewards behind the scenes who do an absolutely fantastic job, and everyone else here at Racing Club International. Thank you very much for watching this season and this evening, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time for round 1 of the Challenge Cup.